I have a question for Darren again. Darren, I'd like you to share a little bit about your experience playing the role of one of Ip Man's students. Did you have to do any prior study to that, besides the scripts?
Thank you. Yeah, I wish I had the opportunity to do some study for that, because throughout the entire movie, I was given no indication about what the actual role was. I was told I would have a role, and 3 years later they finally shot my role, but I didn't get the script until the night before. So.
Okay, and what about your experience of taking part in the Ip Man movie?
Well, there's a couple of things. Let me answer that first. The experience was interesting. It's just funny the way it works out, because just looking back at it, I'm teaching the guy whose character taught the guy who taught me, who taught him back. It's just, I found that very amusing. But anyway, aside from that, the Master Moy had mentioned something that I thought that I wanted to highlight, was that nowadays we hear about communist China, or you see movies about the Qing dynasty or the Ming dynasty or whatever in the distant past. But then there was that period between the early 20th century and right in the middle, post World War II, that was the New Republic. And it was warlords, and it was warlordism, and it was a lot of infighting, and there was no real rule of law. Yeah, there was the New Republic, but I really enjoyed learning from the movie, because it doesn't actually tell you right in your face, this is what life was like back then. In fact, you don't even see what life was like. You see sort of a fraction of it, the way people lived, sort of our understanding of their behavior, the way they thought back then. And the scene between Gong-ar and her father, where he talks about stepping down, and he says to her in this one scene, that she's going to get married, and he says, 江湖的事跟你没有关的, basically telling her, Jianghu means something very special in Chinese culture, in Chinese history. And, people talk about Mo Lam or Wu Lin or whatever, but Jianghu was sort of like, it's this concept. It's really hard to describe and really hard to understand, but you sort of see it displayed out in front of you. And sort of the ins and outs, the politics of Jianghu de Shi, the way that people in the Jianghu work, and the sort of the ways that people think. And it's just really fascinating, because it's sort of similar to the fights. You can look at a fight and say, oh yeah, it's not people flying around, so it's not that exciting. Or you can say, every single little frame, or what's he doing there, what's he doing there, and everything has some sort of meaning. It's the same thing with drama and talking about the Jianghu, or when the old Master Gong talks to his brother-in-arms in the kitchen, and they talk about passing on power and being in the light and the dark, and there's a lot of that sort of interplay in society back then, until they go to Hong Kong, and it's like crossing this great divide of culture and society. When Gong-ar talks to Ip Man, and she looks up at the signs and says, is this what everything has come to? Just a bunch of martial arts schools, just a bunch of signs. Whereas back in China, back in the early 20th century, it was something totally different, and the world has changed so much. And the message there, it's at once clear, but also very, it's just very interesting. It makes me want to learn more. I had no idea about these things. You watch movies and you hear about revenge and love and whatever and fighting. But what do you know about the people? What do you know about the society and how society has changed? this I think the director just did an amazing job with.
That's interesting because it sounds like so it gave you a lot of perspective and context on what helped make Ip Man become what he is, right, for us.
Yeah, exactly. There was a question about, did my dad tell me anything about what Ip Man might have told him from Fasan? I can't, off the top of my head, think of any kind of stories because I didn't really hear much of any. But I can say, I'm not sure if I can actually, I do know that we shot some scenes in the movie that didn't appear. Well, we shot a lot of stuff that didn't appear in the final edits, in any of the edits. And there's just so much more information about who Ip Man was and who the Razor was and the sort of the politics of the time that didn't make it in the edit. It's just very fascinating stuff. That it's just beyond like, oh, Wing Chun or Ba Gua Ba Ji or Xing Yi or Choi Lei Fut even or Hong Gar or anything like that. It's just just really diverse.
Thank you. Nathaniel?
Sifu, we know that Ip Man in that period in Fatsan belongs to a rich family. Which circumstance led him to teach Wing Chun in Fatsan? Because he didn't need that to live, right?
First, that many people think that Ip Man has such it's from such a rich family, but sometimes I think people sometimes exaggerate in this idea, and plus when I have a Second War, or even a little bit before, when the Japanese invade the Fatsan, he had a good help of a good friend, and his son was his first student because Ip Man wanted to, let's say, pay back what he received from this good friend. The name Chow. He was represented in another movie. Ip Man movie was Ip Man, one the good friend who opened a factory, right? And his son Chow Kong Yu is still alive and live in Kongjiao nowadays. Unfortunately we don't have the opportunity to talk to him because it was difficult to find him, but you, Nathaniel, was with me when we interviewed two of his disciples. And those days, totally according to them, you remember, or they said was 7, right? 7 disciples those days. And when they told us the circumstance, they learned Kung Fu during the Japanese occupation, you can see how much patience you have to learn their Kung Fu, So I learned my Kung Fu in the United States and I live in Brazil, and I consider myself someone who really working hard to learn my Kung Fu. But after listening to those CPAs, I really feel ashamed, of myself, because you can see those days they really have to risk their lives to learn their Kung Fu. Not just the students, also Sifu. So their circumstance changed dramatically during the Japanese occupation. We don't know exactly that things happened, if Ip Man refused to teach the Japanese, I don't know if this really happened. People say yes, some say no, but the key is, Leung kept his own value in those days. That make him suffer a lot, you know. But when the Japanese lose the war, so then he had some advantage because that, you know. Because after that he could work as a policeman, as many people know, you know, and this is a deal he had to go to Hong Kong in 1949. You know? So the circumstance was pretty much different. That's why what I learned from my Sifu, he had to start to teach Wing Chun, just for living, but to give something back to his good friend, you know. So that's why he accepted Chow Kong Yu as his first student. Actually, according to our research, Chow Kong Yu changed his name. Nowadays, he lives in another place with another name. But who discovered all this was his daughter. Because his daughter, after watch the movie, the first movie, Imam movie, Wilson Ip's movie, she found out that maybe her father was the character. So that's why we know now Chang Ko Yu is living in Kongjiao. I don't know if he's still alive or not, you know, because as you know, that the two CPAC whom we interview in Fatsan, Leung Kai in Kung Fu, they passed away already, you know. So maybe no one less anymore of those original Imam students. So maybe Master Darren will have some other stories based on the movie research that I learned from my CIF and our own research, you know, during the time we went to China.
So, Darren, do you want to add something about this?
Well, I'm certainly not an authority on that subject. The only thing I know is what I had heard, and all I understood was that, yes, it's very true that learning martial arts was really only for the wealthy. Somebody, because it was very secretive, you know, you don't just teach a whole bunch of people. So if you have money, you pay the master, and then the master teaches you. So, you know, it didn't, Ip Man didn't need to learn it. He didn't need to teach it. So all I know is that I did hear one story from somebody else about how he did take one disciple in Fatsan. You know, according to this guy, he said that this Ip Man's first disciple actually ran around, you know, was sort of beating a drum and telling everybody, okay, I'm taking Ip Man as my Sifu, whatever that was supposed to mean, a traditional way or not, I'm not sure. But he didn't learn much, you know. I'm not saying that, just I'd heard that. You know, because the meaning of being a disciple isn't that, okay, you're my disciple, I'm going to teach you everything I know. It's more like, you know, I take you as a disciple, you treat me as a father, I treat you as a son. That sort of relationship. Whether or not you learn everything or anything or nothing at all, it doesn't matter. It's more of a bond between two people.
Master Darren, did the same way that he gave you a different perspective on Ip Man, did participating in the movie and seeing all the conversations and all the actions and way it was done and trying to put in perspective Ip Man, did you gain a different understanding about what it is to be a GrandMaster?
Yeah, you know, the director asked me that in the very beginning before we actually shot the movie, you know, what does it mean to be a GrandMaster? We pretty much asked everybody that question and got all kinds of different answers. And, you know, it's a tough question to ask. I think there's a practical answer, and there's a sort of a vague general answer. And we touched on the vague general answer before. Really, the practical answer is, okay, yeah, you know everything there is to know about some sort of style. In my personal opinion, I don't think I necessarily learned anything about what it means to be a grandmaster, other than just sort of like we all do, reinforcing our own opinions about how things should be. You might think a style should develop a certain way or should spread a certain way. I might think it should develop or spread a certain different way. Who's right and who's wrong? It doesn't really matter. I think it says more about being a person, and being accepting and understanding and trying to understand more about what it is you're doing. That's more important than anything else.
Okay, thank you. So we are approaching the final minutes. I would like to go for a final round of comments and or questions. We're going to start with Jones. Jones, any comments, questions?
I just want to ask Darren. There's in the second movie Song This Way, if he knows about it.
No, not as far as I know. I certainly haven't been asked about it. I would love to see some of the extra scenes, instated into a longer cut. I've heard some rumors about a 4-hour movie or something like that. I don't. There's definitely a lot of material, but a lot of it is also very conflicting. So you can't, one scene could be shot different ways, and you can't put all of that into one movie because it's one scene different ways. And this may not interest kung fu people, but in terms of acting and movies, it was definitely interesting to watch the actors do their thing in the drama sections, just because you hear about the director doing dozens of takes or something, but it really is all in the details. And when the actors do their parts, they might shoot that scene a dozen different ways, but each way has its own sort of validity. Each way has its own sort of feel. And in the end, you have to select one, and it has to match what that movie is. So, action scenes, it's very specific how it's picked. Unless we missed something, God forbid we missed something in the action that we have to cut around, but things happen.
So you're very lucky to watch all these secret scenes.
I can't even tell you. It's such a tremendous learning experience. I mean, I won't say that I didn't learn anything about Wing Chun. I certainly learned some things, but also about like collaboration, because when a movie drags on like this, you sort of wonder when it's going to end. Why am I doing this or whatever? But I was given assignments here and there. Do something with the long pole, do something with the butterfly knives, and it just seems sort of tedious because it's not going to be in a movie. But once you start crafting that yourself and start trying to make your own action sequences, which I was asked to do, then you sort of make it your own. It's kind of like when somebody teaches you a style, and then you have to teach it back out to somebody else. If you want to teach it, if it becomes that project, you own that project, then you have that interest. Then you really put your mind to it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Marcio, would you like to have, make any comments or questions?
Well, I have a question about Master Lemogura. I'd like to be, what difference in Fat San community, martial arts, and Hong Kong community, your opinion?
Really would be my opinion, because I don't have that kind of experience. But the the research, because as mentioned by Mr. Darren, different period in the Qing or imperial period or the republic, right? So, or then finally the communist period, different ways to the martial arts community to behave. The behavior of those communities are totally different. And I even heard from the, I believe it was an interview from Wong Kar-wai. He said it's very difficult to portray the Republic period, because it's, I mean, in terms of in the cinematography way, because it's very difficult how to portray the period in a way to be understandable for us, And I believe this happened with the martial arts. Always the martial arts community is adapting. See in Hong Kong, pretty different too. Same way when you went to US or here, of course, in Brazil. But one thing is common in every period. It's the capacity, the ability of the martial artists to adapt in any circumstance they are. So in Hong Kong, if you see very small place, the Mokong are really small. I believe in Fatsan, the more, let's say, outdoors Mokong, not so many indoors Mokong as we had in Hong Kong. So all this make a huge difference. Besides that, when your GrandMaster Ip Man went to Hong Kong, many people already went there, So together with him, many people also try to dispute their space to teach Kung Fu. So one thing, I really respect the Patriarca Ip Man, is the way he really promote the Ving Tsun system, because the way he did is not through demonstrations or the way many people or tournaments or the many ways people believe is the best way nowadays. It is in some way, and people really respect the art, but he doesn't have to or didn't have to demonstrate or do something. At least minimal way, I think in Fatsa it's pretty much different. Even to nowadays, if you go to Fatsa, it's different when you go to, for example, Hokksan, Fatsan, or Hong Kong. Even the way the people approach the style is a little bit different. Or even Santak, or the place you were, So, of course, everyone are very proud of what they have. And they demonstrate and they try to really give you a lot of value to what they are doing, which is, for me, I think is really good, because in that way people can really feel at least the importance, the legacy, in the hands, and now how to preserve their art and pass on the future generations. But basically, I think it's not. A matter of the difference between Hong Kong and Pakistan. Even in Hong Kong nowadays, the martial arts community is totally different than 20 years ago or the beginning of 20th century or after war, So it's very difficult to just say, oh, Hong Kong or Fatsan. Because even if Fatsan have different periods, Hong Kong have different periods. And I do hope here, we in Brazil, we can progress more and have a more, let's say, mature martial arts community, because we need that. We need to be more together. So that's why I would like to thank you for allowing us to have this kind of interaction with Master Darren, who represent another Wing Tsun lineage between Iman's lineage. So we from Moy Yat family. You guys are from the Duncan Leung family. So I think this is a very important moment when you can interact and exchange. Actually, not just exchange, but actually we learn a lot. Actually, we are talking about the movie, but we learn a lot about or what Master Darren talk. He's a straight guy, So the way his speech is very precise. So this allows us to learn a lot about not just the movie, but the martial arts culture. So I like to thank you to have this kind of opportunity to talk to such important person in the martial arts field. Thank you, Marcio.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seafood Mumura.
Marcio, any additional comments?
Okay, it's okay.
All right. Nathaniel?
Just say thank you for you guys to giving us the opportunity for this moment. Thank you.
Right. Master Darren Leung, any final comments?
I'm really bad at comments. I enjoyed this chance to chat and talk with all of you. One thing I can say that I'm not very old, but when I was younger, I was a lot more arrogant about Wing Tsun and about martial arts and what everything means. And, the world's a pretty big place, and I enjoy learning Wing Tsun the way I learned it. I enjoy seeing how other people do their different styles, or even within the same type of style within Wing Tsun. And it's great to get a different perspective on things. And one thing I've learned is not being judgmental about people, about styles, about how people do things. Folks have their reasons. And I try to take something away from that, something that's positive. And this was this web discussion was a positive thing. And thank you.
Thank you. Master Leung, final comments?
My final comments that goes to you guys. You did a great job. Please keep in doing this good work. Inviting good persons so we can interact, learn, and exchange. What they have to offer. Because I think that's the future of the martial arts. We are living a global reality, so it's very important you have this kind of interaction. And I know how hard Nathaniel and you, Renato, work for this happen. Together with Marcio. We know the Master Darren Leung's schedule is it's not that easy to find a good time to. Myself, I have a very difficult schedule, so thank you for you guys to arrange, the appropriate schedule for both of us. I think this is a good initiative. So please keep in doing your good work. And I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Master. I'd like to thank you, Darren, for participating here with us as well, answering our questions. Also, I'd like to thank you, Leung, for always your participation in those events, and my co-hosts. And I'm Renato Almeida. I would like to thank you all for watching us, and I hope to see you again soon. Have a good night.
Good night.